Part 46. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 451. Chapter 451, this time, he must keep calm. If it were anyone else, the employees would guess whether they were waiting for information from their girlfriends. Can be replaced by their Mr. Mo. I think this possibility is very slim. It seems that Mr. Mo doesn't have a girlfriend. Last time I heard that he brought a girl to his office, and they seemed to have a very close relationship. But afterwards, I never saw that girl again. Is it possible that Mr. Mo and that girl are still together and haven't separated yet? Everyone has the same question in their mind, but no one dares to ask. Mr. Mo is, in a very bad mood today. When I heard about the previous meeting, I became so cold-faced that all the senior officials were so frightened that they didn't dare to take a breath. This meeting, Mr. Mo's face seemed to be even colder. Especially after frequently clicking on my phone and looking at it almost a dozen times, the anger in my eyes gradually increased, and it was so intense that it almost overflowed from the bottom of my eyes. The whole person was enveloped by a gloomy cold air, looking particularly scary. Everyone is silently muttering in their hearts, "The meeting will end soon, the meeting will end soon." If it doesn't end, they will almost die of suffocation. Woohoo, Mr. Mo is really scary. Perhaps God heard their prayers and took pity on them. The meeting that originally took almost an hour to end was stopped after half an hour. The man sitting in the front has a handsome face, and his overly good-looking face is too good-looking even with an angry expression. The man's thin lips pursed into a cold straight line, and there was almost no warmth in his eyes. After announcing that the meeting was over, he immediately stood up and left the meeting room. Asterisk. As soon as he walked out of the conference room, he clicked on his phone and saw that the chat history was still half an hour old. Mo Yessie's face became more and more gloomy. She actually didn't send him any more messages. Could it be that she couldn't feel that he was angry? Don't you know how many more messages to send to coax him? Or give him a call and say some nice words to him, and he will forgive her for not having dinner with him at night. But she didn't. She just asked a symbolic question, and when he didn't reply, she ignored him. It can be seen that even the question she asked before was casual. Not distracted at all. Thinking of this, his already gloomy face darkened even more. Mo Yessie felt left out. He felt that in Chiao Mianmian's heart, he was worse than Zhang Luli. Because Chiao Mianmian would rather accompany Zhang Luli than accompany him. He wished he could see her all the time. But she didn't seem to want to do this. In this relationship, after all, he invested more. He felt a little angry. He stared at the chat interface between the two for a long time and decided that he would leave Chiao Mianmian in the cold. Since she doesn't send messages, he won't send them to her either. She can show that she doesn't care about him that much. He can too. He immediately decided to ignore Chiao Mianmian for 2 or 3 days. Anyway, if she didn't take the initiative to come to him, he would not take the initiative again. This time, he must stay calm. Must wait until she comes to him first. Asterisk. On Weibo. The news about Jiao Angzhen is getting louder and louder. In just half a day, her popular discussions increased from 100 to 200 million at the beginning to 890 million. The hot search also quickly ranked first. Almost everyone is discussing her revelations and speculating on whether they are true or false. Her fans are like a cult, attacking people everywhere. Whenever they see someone talking about Jiao Angzhen or saying that Jiao Angzhen is not good at all, they rush to bite people like swarms of swarms. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 452. Chapter 452. Xinggui hasn't responded yet. This behavior of fans has angered many people who eat melons, and they all expressed that the road has turned dark. Those who were dubious about the revelations, after seeing the crazy behavior of Xiao Angzhen's fans, began to believe that the things in the revelations were true. After all, with such crazy fans, how good can the master be? For celebrities who are truly qualified, cultivated, and have a good outlook on life, their fans are also quite polite and will never be annoying. Some people think that Xiao Angzhen is deliberately hyping up because she was silent for too long. It lasted so long that people felt that she had ulterior motives and wanted to use this kind of thing to hype herself up. Otherwise, how come it has been so long and there is still no reaction? This is not something her team can do. It's not like Xiao Angzhen hasn't been exposed to scandal before. There was no time when the public relations team was not dispatched quickly and responded within an hour or two. Anyway, because of Xiao Angzhen's non-response, the matter was recoverable from the beginning, but gradually moved towards an irreversible situation. Many netizens said that the revelations are 80% true. Just because it was true, the people in Xiao Angzhen's team did not dare to respond casually, fearing that if the other party came up with something real and hammered Xiao Angzhen to death, it would be bad. The team is still racking their brains to figure out how to clear their name. This incident is no longer as easy to clean up as the previous beating incident. Once it is confirmed that Xiao Angzhen has become a mistress, she will no longer be a qualified artist in terms of morality. The General Administration of GD has just issued some regulations. One of them is that if an artist has done something morally wrong and has a negative impact on the public, such an artist must be used with caution. If the impact is particularly bad, it is recommended that make a ban. GD's so-called suggestions are meant for discussion, not actual terms. However, since GD has spoken like this, who dares not to take it seriously? So, if Xiao Angzhen really takes the job of being a mistress, it would be a trivial matter to damage her reputation. The really serious part is that no one will dare to use her in the future. She will not be able to survive in the entertainment industry. Even some melon-eating people know these truths. It's impossible for Xinggui not to know. Xiao Angzhen is an artist that Xinggui is actively promoting, and she has such a relationship with Suzy. There is no reason why Xinggui doesn't send out a public relations team to protect her. Tell me, what does Xiao Angzhen think? A hot pot restaurant. Zhang Luli dipped the freshly permed hairy belly into the sauce, and after eating it happily, he picked up his phone and scrolled through Weibo for a while. The screen is full of news about Xiao Angzhen. She randomly swiped a few posts, then clicked on Xinggui's official blog to take a look. The studios of Guanbo and Xiao Angzhen are as quiet as a chicken as always. There hasn't been any response yet. Could it be that they haven't figured out a countermeasure yet? This doesn't seem like their usual style. Even if they haven't figured out a countermeasure yet, shouldn't they spend money to remove the hot search first? Why are we still allowing public opinion to ferment faster and faster? Xiao Mian was a little surprised after hearing this. Xinggui hasn't given a response yet. Well, it's been a long time, don't you think it's weird? It's a bit strange. Xiao Mian picked up a piece of cooked spicy beef from the pot and put it into Zhang Luli's bowl. She supported her chin with one hand, tilted her head and thought for a while, then said with a smile, "Forget it. Leave them alone. The beef in the pot is already cooked. It won't taste good if it's cooked for too long. Eat it quickly." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 453. Chapter 453. She just doesn't want to deal with Mo Yesi now. Zhang Luli's attention was immediately attracted by the delicious food. She ate the beef dipped in chili powder and immediately shed tears from the spicy taste. But he immediately picked up another piece. While shouting it was spicy, I also said it was deliciously spicy. That's right, baby. After eating several slices of beef, she couldn't help but sip some water. After drinking half the cup in one breath, she raised her head and looked at Jiao Mian Mian. The mail hasn't replied to your message yet. Jiao Mian Mian. Happy originally. As soon as Zhang Luli mentioned this matter, she became a little depressed. Because Mo Yesi, that stingy, childish guy, really didn't reply to her messages. At the beginning, Jiao Mian Mian helped him find various excuses. Maybe he was busy with something and didn't look at his phone. Perhaps I saw it and don't have time to reply at the moment. However, nearly 2 hours after he ignored her, Jiao Mian Mian could no longer find any excuse. She can now be completely sure that Mo Yesi did it on purpose. Just because she didn't agree to have dinner with him in the evening, this childish man ignored her. This was the first time that Jiao Mian Mian was ignored by him like this. Maybe it was because Mo Yesi had always doted on her and was so obedient to her that Jiao Mian Mian almost forgot that this man actually didn't have a very good temper. She is the one who has always been pampered, so she hasn't felt it too obviously. But in fact, except for her, everyone around Mo Yesi has felt his indifference, and naturally they have become accustomed to his indifference. Jiao Mian Mian can't do it. She's not used to it at all. She feels very wronged now. A particularly special grievance. She doesn't want to deal with that stingy Mo Yesi anymore. Don't mention him, she said angrily. I don't care whether my love comes back or not. Zhang Luli. She said she didn't care, but she was so angry that she even stopped eating her favorite tripe and beef. Don't you care? She thought for a while, but still wanted to act as a peacemaker, and tried to persuade. Didn't you say that the mail is easy to coax? Why don't you give him a call? Maybe he has been waiting for you to contact him. No, Jiao Mian Mian said angrily, he's not looking for me, and I don't want to look for him either. What if he never comes to you? Of course, this is absolutely impossible. I'm just making an analogy. Then I haven't been looking for him. Jiao Mian Mian bit her lip, looking very stern. He doesn't care about me anymore, why should I still look for him? Zhang Luli. Why don't I care about you? If he cares about me, will he be able to bear not contacting me? Zhang Luli was a little funny. What if he thinks so too? Are you still planning to keep the Cold War until the end of the world? Jiao Mian Mian. She doesn't know either. Anyway, she just didn't want to deal with Mo Yesi right now. Asterisk. At the same time, in the hospital, Qiao Angzhen was still in a coma, lying on the snow-white hospital bed with a pale face. Outside the ward, Suzy looked at the doctor in disbelief. For a moment, the expression on his face was as complicated as it could be. He said in disbelief, "What did you say?" "She had a miscarriage." "Yes," the doctor in a white coat replied politely, "Mr. Su, I'm sorry, we have tried our best. It's just that Miss Jiao was a little late when she arrived, and the baby in her belly was still very young. So I couldn't keep it." The doctor looked at Suzy's pale face, thought for a moment, and then said, "Mr. Su, don't be too sad. Miss Jiao is still young, and it will be easy to have children in the future." End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 454. Chapter 454. You said Qiao Angzhen had a miscarriage. Suzy didn't seem to hear what the doctor was saying. The word miscarriage kept echoing in his ears. How did Qiao Angzhen miscarry? Isn't she not pregnant? Didn't Zhao Kai say that her pregnancy test reports were all fake? She is not pregnant at all. But, if she was not pregnant, why did she miscarry again? At first, he thought she was pretending, so he didn't take it seriously at all. At that time, he still felt disgusted in his heart. Thought she had lied to him again. If he could take her to the hospital as soon as possible, if it was just a little earlier, would their child be able to be saved? At this moment, he felt an overwhelming sense of guilt. Because he was the one who pushed Xiao Angzhen to the ground himself. He raised his head and looked at the doctor, his face paled a lot, his eyes filled with deep remorse and guilt, and he asked with a trembling voice, "Doctor, are you sure she really had a miscarriage?" "Mr. Su, how could we talk nonsense about this?" The doctor was a little dissatisfied with such questioning of their medical skills, but considering Suzi's identity, his attitude was still polite. Suzi closed his eyes and suddenly punched the snow-white wall. The doctor was startled. "Mr. Su." Suzi buried his head in pain and said in a hoarse voice, "You go, I want to be alone. Also, your hospital has signed a confidentiality agreement about this matter, and it must not be disclosed, otherwise. Mr. Su, please rest assured that we have professional ethics." The doctor left quickly. Suzi stood alone in the corridor for more than 10 minutes, and then called Su's mother. After the call was connected, he shouted hoarsely, "Mom." As soon as Su's mother heard his voice, she immediately realized something was wrong and asked with concern, "Ace, has something happened?" Suzi closed his eyes in pain. "An Xian is in the hospital." Su's mother was silent for a few seconds, and then asked in confusion, "Okay, why did she end up in the hospital? Didn't you say that she might have lied to me?" Suzi was still immersed in the pain of losing his son. He vented all his anger and resentment on Su's mother and said in a very cold tone, "So, I let someone went to investigate." Mother Su hesitated and said, "Ace, what happened? Are you in the hospital now? Do you need your dad and me to come over?" Suzi ignored Mother Su's words. He clenched his phone and said in a cold tone full of resentment, "Mom, did you tell the hospital in advance and let them lie to the people I sent to investigate? Just because you didn't want Anan to get in, you arranged this to frame her? Are you satisfied now? Anan had a miscarriage, and there really was no child in her belly. Your goal was finally achieved." "Ace, what did you say?" Su's mother said in a shocked tone. "You said Xiao Angzhen had a miscarriage." Suzi sneered, "Yes, she had a miscarriage. Are you happy?" "You, what are you talking about? Why should I be happy about her miscarriage? What should I say? She is also carrying my grandson. I didn't expect that she was actually pregnant. How is it possible? Are you willing to admit that she is carrying your grandson now?" "Mom, let me tell you, you have an unshirkable responsibility for the death of this child." "What responsibility do I have?" Mother Su was a little angry at his tone, and her voice became colder. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 455. Chapter 455, Deal with that woman quickly. Ace, what's your attitude? Are you blaming me? What does Xiao Angzhen's miscarriage have to do with me? Did I let her have the miscarriage? Even if you are in a bad mood now, you shouldn't be so indiscriminate. I admit that I don't like her, and I don't agree with you being together. But you heard clearly, her miscarriage has nothing to do with me. Since you were with her because of the child before, and now the child is gone, you don't have to marry her to admit responsibility. In my opinion, this abortion may not be a bad thing. Although the child is innocent, but that child has been in her belly for less than 2 months, so don't tell me how deeply you feel about that child." Su's mother spoke very bluntly and did not give Suzi any face. "I gave birth to you, how can I understand you? This woman is restless and not good at all. When you and Mian were still together, she tried so hard to seduce you without any regard for her sisterly relationship with Mian, which is extremely shameless. I think she had planned the pregnancy and wanted to use the child to gain power. In fact, she did succeed. Ace, listen to your mother's advice. This kind of scheming woman is not suitable for you. You can just take this opportunity to separate from her. Your Uncle Chen's second daughter has come back from abroad. Mom has seen the child once and looks very good. She's beautiful and elegant, and she's much better than the woman next to you. You should deal with that woman quickly and go home on the weekend. I'll ask your Uncle Chen to bring his daughter to our house for a meal. Suzy was extremely angry. Mom, I'm not in the mood to date other women right now. It's not a blind date, it's just a meal and a meeting. Mom tells you, that girl is really pretty. Although she's not as pretty as Mian, she's still pretty good. You'll definitely like her. Suzy's face changed slightly when he suddenly heard Sue's mother mentioning Chiao Mian. Sue's mother was still nagging, anyway, you have to go home on the weekend. Your dad and I. After a while, Suzy hung up the phone. His original intention in making this call was to question Sue's mother. Because he felt that the false information he asked Zhao Kai to go to the hospital to find out were all arranged by Sue's mother. Sue's mother did this just to separate him and Jiao Angzhen. Suzy was very angry when he guessed this. Even though he didn't have much affection for Jiao Angzhen, what Jiao Angzhen was carrying in her belly was his flesh and blood of Suzy after all. His child was just gone, there was no way he wouldn't feel anything at all. But Sue's mother did know him very well. The person who was pregnant was Jiao Angzhen, and the baby in her belly was less than 2 months old. Suzy, the so-called father, actually didn't have much affection for the unborn child. If Chiao Mian was pregnant with their child, he would definitely be very happy and look forward to the birth of the baby. He and Chiao Mian both look good, and no matter which one the baby looks like, he will be very good looking. It would be even better if she was like Chiao Mian, she would definitely be a very, very beautiful baby. The person who can get pregnant is Chiao Angzhen. He doesn't have much joy in becoming a father for the first time, but more of a sense of responsibility in his heart. Now that the child in Chiao An's belly is gone, her sense of responsibility has naturally faded a lot. The rest is mostly guilt and self-blame. If it hadn't been for that push from him, Chiao Angzhen would not have fallen to the ground, and it would not have caused her to miscarry. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 456. Chapter 456. Mr. Su, who has just taken office, is very cruel. Suzy knew it very well. Whether Su's mother had someone deceive him or not, it was impossible for him to break up with his biological mother because of this matter. He had always been filial and could not do such a thing. Furthermore, Chiao Angzhen's weight is not enough for him to do this. He can still tell which one is more important, Sumu or Chiao Angzhen. Suzy stood outside for a while and saw the new agent he had arranged for Chiao Angzhen coming over. The new agent's name is Huolin. Huolin walked up to Suzy, stopped, and shouted respectfully, "Mr. Su." Suzy nodded in response. Huolin glanced at the ward with the door ajar, and hesitated, "Miss Chiao." Suzy narrowed his eyes, "I haven't woken up yet. Tell me, what's the matter?" He didn't say anything about the miscarriage. However, at that time, several people in Xinggui saw that Jiao An's body was stained with blood, and they more or less guessed it. Huolin saw that Suzy was unwilling to mention this matter, so she didn't ask any more questions. She originally came here because of other things. Not here to visit Jiao Angzhen. "Mr. Su, haven't you dealt with the revelations about Miss Jiao on Weibo? Now it's on the top of the hot search list. If this continues, I'm afraid it will have a great impact on Miss Jiao's reputation. She has signed several contracts before it's an advertising contract. If this matter is not clarified in time, I'm afraid the brand will ask to terminate the contract. At that time, we will still be the ones paying the termination fee." Because the contract regulations stipulate that if the artist reveals any negative information during the contract period that affects the brand's image, the brand can terminate the contract and must compensate them for image damage. The few advertisements that Jiao Angzhen signed were not considered big names. But the termination fee added together is still a large expense. Su Ziyi didn't plan to deal with this matter at first because he felt Jiao Angzhen had lied to him. Of course, I don't want to help Jiao Angzhen clear her name. He even planned to let Jiao Angzhen die like this. But now that something like this happened, he was filled with guilt and wanted to do something to compensate Jiao Angzhen. He pondered for a moment, looked at Huolin, and said in a deep voice, "Go and make a statement, saying that it was Linda who broke the news on the campus forum. It was Linda who posted the post privately while an XIN was not paying attention. The company fired her immediately after learning about this incident." Huolin was stunned and her expression changed. She and Linda usually have a good relationship. Both of them are the company's top brokers. She already knew that Su Ziyi fired Linda for Jiao Angzhen, but she didn't expect that now he wanted to let Linda take the blame for Jiao Angzhen. It's too much. How to put it another way, Linda is also an old employee of Xinggui and has made a lot of contributions to Xinggui. It is too despicable and shameless to cross the river and burn the bridge like this. Also too cold and heartless. For a moment, she couldn't help but feel a little chilled. Even veteran-level employees like Linda are fired when they are told and take the blame when they are told. Let alone others. This President Su, who just took office not long ago, is quite ruthless. Huolin secretly thought that she might have to find a new way out, but her expression remained calm and she looked submissive and obedient. "Yes, Mr. Su, I understand. As for the other revelations, if there is no real evidence, just say it is a rumor. Let the lawyer sue the person who posted it." Su Ziyi is very sure that the person who posted the message has no evidence that he cheated on Jiao Angzhen. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 457. Chapter 457. He doesn't want to face it? If there was, it would have been released long ago. So, there is only one thing he has to solve, and the others are not important. The time when Linda Xia left her job happened to be these 2 days. It is appropriate to put all the responsibility for the previous incident on her. He caused Jiao Angzhen to have a miscarriage, and it was impossible for the child to come back. The only thing he can do is make up for her in other ways. "Yes, Mr. Su, I will go back to the company right away to deal with this matter. Miss Jiao has an advertisement to be shot the day after tomorrow. We will inform the advertiser that she is not feeling well and cannot go for the time being. How many days of rest will she have to take?" Yes, Su Ziyi nodded. "Let's just say that. The rest time is." Su Ziyi thought for a moment and realized that Jiao Angzhen's miscarriage was not a trivial matter, and her body must have been severely damaged. Gotta take a good rest. Don't give her any more work this month. Yes, Mr. Su. After Huolin asked, she turned around and prepared to leave. However, Su Ziyi also turned around, as if he was about to leave too. She was stunned for a moment and asked in surprise, "Mr. Su, do you want to leave?" Su Ziyi was silent for a few seconds, and then said in a deep voice. Huolin paused, turned her head and glanced at Jiao Angzhen's ward. After hesitating for a while, she asked carefully, "Aren't you waiting for Miss Jiao to wake up?" Everyone in Xinggui knows that Su Ziyi cares about Jiao Angzhen very much. Otherwise, I wouldn't have fired all the top agents like Linda for her sake. But what he is doing now is indeed a bit hard to understand. My girlfriend had an accident and she is still unconscious. He is not by her bedside, but she wants to leave. Su Ziyi paused, then quickly walked forward. No need. When Jiao Angzhen wakes up and finds out that she has had a miscarriage, she will definitely make trouble with him. He doesn't want to face it? He was even more afraid that Jiao Angzhen would use the miscarriage to kidnap him and force him to marry her immediately. After talking to Sue's mother on the phone just now, he already had some ideas in his mind. Sue's mother was right, he was with Jiao Angzhen because of the child. Now that the child is gone, he no longer has to be responsible for her. He indeed should think carefully about his future relationship with Jiao Angzhen. Asterisk. Light flowing in the dark night. The most exclusive and luxurious entertainment club in Yunqing. A place where most of the rich and powerful's children come and go. It is also a place frequented by Yan Shaoqing and Gong Zili, a well-known young man. Dark Night Liuguang VIP box number 888 has been reserved for a long time for this group of young men who stand at the head of the powerful people in Yunqing. Even if they are not here, no one else dares to use this box. Because the flowing light in the dark night was opened by the Gong family. As the sole heir of the Gong family, the Crown Prince Gong Zili is the young master of the family here. The door to the private room was ajar. Yan Shaoqing pushed the door open and walked in with a young model in his arms. He saw Gong Zili softly comforting Shen Ro, who was bowing her head and crying. He held a handkerchief and wiped Shen Ro's tears very gently. That cautious look really blinded Yan Shaoqing's eyes. The young model he was holding in his arms also looked a little surprised. Gong Zili is quite well known in Yunqing. Especially the female celebrities and young models in the entertainment industry, basically everyone knows about him and Yan Shaoqing. These two men symbolize the powerful people in Yun City. They are not only good-looking, but also generous in their dealings. They are incomparable to those fat, round, greasy old men. There are many female celebrities in the industry who want to catch up with them. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 458. Chapter 458 Shaoqing, let her go. After all, serving them, making money and enjoying yourself is 100 times better than serving a greasy old man. The young model had heard that Gong Zili had a very strange temper and was definitely not a gentle lover, but the scene she saw now made her a little suspicious. Is this really the rumored young master who can make people leave if he disagrees with her? Looks so gentle. As if he guessed what the young model in his arms was thinking, Yan Shaoqing curled his lips, lifted the young model's pointed chin with his slender fingers, and said with a playful smile, "Little one, don't be fooled by the illusion." "But, Mr. Gong, he treats that woman. That's not an ordinary woman." Yan Shaoqing narrowed his eyes thoughtfully, and walked over with the young model in his arms. "The eldest lady of the Shen family grew up with us. This kind of friendship, others can't comparable. She is the only one who gets this kind of treatment." "That's the eldest lady of the Shen family." The young model opened her eyes wide in surprise. Come on, my brother will take you over to say hello." Yan Shaoqing pinched the young model's slender waist, hugged her and walked to Gong Zili and Shen Ro. His tone was a bit unserious. "What's wrong with Miss Rura? Is it the fourth child, bullying you while I'm gone?" Hearing his voice, Shen Ro stopped crying and slowly raised her head. She must have been crying for a while. Her eyes were red and swollen. She usually looked at such a strong person, but now her eyes were filled with tears. Under the dim light, her face was covered with wet tear stains. Looking at it, it's really a bit pitiful. She held Gong Zili's handkerchief in her hand, wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes, and glanced at the young model in Yan Shaoqing's arms. A trace of disdain flashed in her eyes. He replied angrily, "You think it's you, Zili, who will make me angry? It's agreed that there will only be a few of us. Why did you bring people here?" Shen Ro is arrogant at heart. She looked down upon the women around Yan Shaoqing who could only be called bed partners at best. "Hence, I don't want to deal with these women." In her eyes, these women are just lowly actors. You don't deserve to play with them at all. The young model froze, feeling her contempt for him, biting the corners of her lips, and shouted in grievance, "Young Master Yan." The soft voice sounds very charming. Shenrou's eyes became more and more disdainful. She didn't give the young model any face at all, and said coldly, "Xiaoqing, let her go. If you want to play with a woman, when can't you play with her? Do you have to bring her here at this time? There are just a few of us. Talking about things, why let an irrelevant person stay here?" As soon as Shenrou said these words, everyone present except herself was stunned for a moment. The young model's eyes were red with grievance, but she still didn't dare to reply. Of course she knows how prominent Miss Shen is. This is definitely not someone she can offend. The young model had long known that she was just a plaything. It was normal for these prominent wealthy young ladies to look down on her. But Shenrou was so disrespectful and showed her contempt for her so directly. After all, she was young and still couldn't control her emotions. His eyes turned red and tears almost fell out. Gong Zili and Yan Xiaoqing were surprised by Shenrou's attitude at this moment. They used to play games together, and Yan Xiaoqing often brought women with him. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 459. Chapter 459, Fourth Child, Did You Offend Her? Although Shenrou didn't like those women, she didn't show her displeasure so directly like she did today. It could be said that she didn't give them any face. Gong Zili was the most surprised person. He glanced at Shenrou in surprise, and a trace of deep thought flashed in his eyes. In his eyes, Shenrou has always been a girl with a very gentle personality and who is also very considerate of others. Furthermore, she has a good upbringing, and even if she dislikes someone, she will not embarrass them in person. But she just. For a moment, Gong Zili felt that Shenrou just now made him feel a little strange. After a moment of silence, Yan Xiaoqing raised the corners of his lips and returned to his usual playful smile. "Rura, what's wrong with you today? You're very angry. We used to play together, and it's not like I've taken care of people before, so why can't I do it today? The little girl in my arms is timid, and you will scare her." After Yan Xiaoqing finished speaking, he lowered his head and glanced at the young model who was looking at him timidly. He stretched out his hand and pinched the young model's face. He curled his lips and said, "Don't be afraid. Your sister Rura is not usually like this. I'm in a bad mood today. So, didn't you just say you wanted to buy something? You go to the mall now and I'll contact you later, okay?" With that said, Yan Xiaoqing took out his wallet, took out one of his attached cards and handed it to the young model. "Just buy whatever you like and treat it as an early birthday gift from me." The young model, who was full of grievances, burst into tears and smiled when she saw the card he handed over. She took the card from Yan Xiaoqing, stood up on her tiptoes and kissed him on the lips. She said in a soft voice, "Thank you, Mr. Yan, you are the best. Then I will go to the mall." Yan Xiaoqing pinched her face again and nodded with a smile. "Well, go ahead. Buy more, don't save me money." The smile on the young model's face became brighter and sweeter. It was like throwing Yan Xiaoqing to the ground and kissing him hard. Sure enough, the young master of the Yan family is just like the rumors. He is a good financial backer who spends a lot of money, and he is really generous to women. It's just different from the greasy old men she used to follow. The key is that not only is he rich, he is generous to women, he is so handsome, and his figure is good enough. The young model looked at the handsome and evil face in front of her and secretly made up her mind to hug this golden thigh tightly. The young model took the card and left happily. Because he was too satisfied and happy, before leaving, he greeted Shenrou angrily, which made Shenrou's face look a little ugly. Wait for the young model to leave. Yan Xiaoqing stretched out his hand and pulled open the buttons of his shirt, loosening his neck, revealing the hickey on his collarbone that had not completely faded away. Shenro glanced at it and couldn't help but sarcastically said, "Aren't you afraid of catching the disease? You dare to take anyone to the bed. Miss Shen, I don't seem to have offended you, right?" Yan Xiaoqing walked to Gong Zili and sat down, spread his hands, tilted his head, and said lazily, "Why are you speaking so thorny today? Who offended you?" After he finished speaking, he turned his head and asked Gong Zili lazily, "Fourth, did you offend her?" End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 460. Chapter 460. Your attitude needs to change too. Gong Zili pursed his lips and glared at him expressionlessly. "It's not you," Yan Xiaoqing raised his eyebrows, "it's not me either. Who could it be?" In fact, Yan Xiaoqing knew it in his heart. Who else can make Shenro cry except Mo Yesi? They don't have such ability. But he just pretended to be confused and deliberately pretended not to know anything. Because he told the truth, he didn't know how to comfort him. After all, what needs to be said has been said before. If Shenro could listen, she would have listened long ago. If she doesn't listen and insists on getting into trouble, he won't be able to persuade her with just a few words. But Yan Xiaoqing felt that Shenro really didn't have this need. Who among them doesn't know that she has liked Mo Yesi since she was a child? However, they all know that Shenro has unrequited love. Although Mo Yesi has a cold nature and seems to be indifferent to everyone, if he really liked Shenro, he would have confessed his love long ago. I would never have tolerated it for so many years without speaking out. Just look at his current attitude towards Xiao Mian. He is definitely not a passive person when it comes to emotions. The reason why he had been aloof for so many years was just because he had not met a woman he liked. When we really meet him, he takes the initiative more than anyone else. To put it bluntly, even if the woman Mo Yesi marries is not Xiao Mian, she won't be Shenro. The truth that they all understand, it is impossible for Shenro not to understand. But she. Rura, if you really feel any grievances, you can tell me and Lao Si. We have been friends for so many years. If someone really bullies you and makes you feel wronged, you can tell who it is and we will make the decision for you. Shenro pursed her lips and tightly grasped a pillow beside her. There was an unreadable expression on her face. She was silent for a while, and then she said in a hoarse voice, "It's not an important matter. There's nothing to say." "Then stop crying." Yan Xiaoqing looked at her. "It's better to have fun when you go out to play, why make yourself so unhappy? And you?" Yan Xiaoqing looked at Gong Zili beside him, frowned and said, "You and your second brother are having a conflict again?" "Fourth brother, I'm not telling you, what are you thinking? Are you really planning to have a complete quarrel with your second brother? Zhang, don't you want this brother anymore?" Gong Zili and Yan Xiaoqing had more personal contact. He naturally knows many things. Mo Yesi has a cold temper, talks little, and is not very patient. Whenever Gong Zili has something to do, he always talks to Yan Xiaoqing. After learning that Gong Zili had 2 quarrels with Mo Yesi, Yan Xiaoqing was speechless towards him. He didn't even know what Gong Zili was doing. Gong Zili pursed his lips and his face was a little stiff. After a moment of silence, he said coldly, "Of course not. More than 10 years of brotherly love. How could you really say give up and just give up? Those words I said before were just angry words." Then Yan Xiaoqing sighed, "Since you don't want us brothers to have nothing to do, then you have to change your attitude." Yan Xiaoqing did not say clearly what to change. But several people knew clearly that he was referring to his attitude towards Xiao Mian. I don't know what happened. Thinking of Xiao Mian, Gong Zili couldn't help but feel a strange feeling in his heart. he recalled the familiar feeling he had with her when he met her in the mall. And the sweet fragrance on her body that seems to be absent. End of this chapter.